Lin lives by himself in modern-day China in a small studio apartment. He is young, not dumb, but definitely a broke comic artist who has spent years studying and learning about ancient cities, gods, demons, and other mythical creatures. The world he lives in has mostly forgotten about magic and the ancient rituals followed by their people. Although he was very successful online with his work, he didn't earn enough to support himself and had to work for the landlord delivering different items to earn his rent. One quiet, unsuspecting night, a huge explosion takes place at an archaeological site at the State University. Researchers were digging up a sacred place, which was analyzed to be a legendary ancient city that had sunk into the ground over 500 years ago. This breaking of the ground caused major imbalances in energies, which caused a huge rift in space and time to form. It created a gateway to another realm where monsters and demons existed, and through the explosion, they would be able to infiltrate the world. The other realm had its own leaders and was divided into several different islands. A number of humans were specially selected to enter this alternative world and fight monsters. Each human was provided with a spirit guide, who would help them navigate their path and level up various skills as well as guide them for their missions. For years, these fighters would use their powers to keep other humans away from any harm by fighting demons. These fighters were known as the Chosen Ones and emitted a different aura light around them that separated them from ordinary people. Through the gateway, a spirit guide called Jerome emerges like a ball of fire. He searches all over the city for an unclaimed player and finally sees a bright red light in one of the windows where Lin lived. He heads straight through it to check out his target and secretly observes him for a few minutes. Jerome is a cute spirit guide with temper issues. Also, he hates being called cute, but is what is. He continues working on his digital art, unaware that there was another presence in the room. Without any warning, a big golden portal opens up in front of him and he is sucked into the other realm, known as the Rift, where he gets dropped on the ground, creating a big impact. It's a gloomy environment with red skies and barren, rock-filled land. His appearance completely changes as his previously short blue hair is turned into thick red hair tied in a ponytail. His clothes are changed too into something much more suited for combat. Poisonous trees erupt from the ground and the tremors are felt all over. When he turns around, he sees a monster with the head of a sheep and the body of a man heading towards him. But since he has already assumed that he is an immortal main character, he stands there ready to fight it. His overconfidence is quickly crushed when the monster attacks him and sends him flying through the air. Luckily for him, an experienced player named Hang shows up and distracts the monster. Using his staff, he summons flaming blue dragons, which directly attacks it, but not enough to kill it. As the battle gets more intense, Lin decides to run away and save his own life, but while he is speeding away like a coward, a moving flame that was sent by Jerome the guide appears next to him. When he reaches out to the flame, it transforms into a special demon-killing sword, the Excalibur, and attracts the attention of the monster. Hang continues chasing and attacking it with his electric blue flames, but is focused on Lin, who runs up a tree. In a lucky accident, he slips off and lands on its head and the sword falls directly onto it, piercing the head of the monster. A beginner like him had managed to defeat a 3-starred monster. Something like this was completely unheard of, and the community of the Chosen Ones began talking, trying to identify who this unknown player was. When he wakes up again in the real world, he finds himself on the ground near a bus stand. An adorable dog approaches him, and as his eyes move up, he sees the holy guide Jerome on its head. He rejoices and picks him up before taking him back to his home. The people nearby watch him interact with the air in front of him and call him crazy. The little guide throws a tantrum in the apartment when he gets treated as a pet. He explains his position as a divine beast that protects the barriers between the different worlds that keep the demon god and his monsters sealed away in a separate realm. Due to the recent explosion at the university, this barrier had weakened, and it was up to the Chosen Ones to use their skills and keep the demons from causing any destruction. Lin is all riled up and excited to become a hero like the ones he's been writing about all these years. He begins daydreaming about his future when he gets a call from his boss to get back to work. Before leaving, he signs the contract to become part of the Chosen Ones. He must agree to live in harmony with the common people, keep his identity a secret, and his actions should not cause any harm to the people around him. On their way to drop off the deliveries, he notices several other spirit guides lurking all over the city. While helping an old lady cross the road, he manages to save a girl, who happens to be another player, from slipping and falling. He sees 2 turtle spirit guides in the middle of the road with the signal about to go red. To save them, he rushes in front of the moving cars, but soon realizes they remain unharmed by any movement in the human world. In another incident, he picked up a caterpillar spirit guide, which only he could see, and ran around screaming warnings about a poisonous gas. His acts are recorded by several people and circulated all around, alerting authorities and the hospital about his mad behavior. Since he broke several rules by causing mass terror, he had summoned to the court, where a panel of judges sit. He is accused of several offenses and is asked to pay a huge fine, but he insists that he was not aware of any of these rules. They review the case and find that he may have been added to the fighter's route by mistake, since the software system did go rogue sometimes. They pull out his registration form and are shocked to see his spirit guide used to be in charge of protecting the barrier between different worlds. After a short laugh, they let them leave without any punishment. His identity and fighter name are released to all others on the app, and no one can believe that the boy who defeated a major monster is the same one who made such a fool of himself on the road. They walk towards the door when the blue signs in front of them start glowing brightly. Before they know it, they are transported to the southern continent of the ancient world. It is a beautiful town with traditional houses and shops. Several other fighters, including Hang, are also present here. Lin is able to recollect several things that he had studied about while coming up with new stories. The two friends are walking down the road discussing the latest updates about the university explosion and how the chief guard of the Chosen Ones had increased the difficulty level of the mission to control the disturbances there. So far, no one has been able to find a cause for it. They see him going crazy near an action figure store, and she recognizes him as Knight Sword. It catches everyone else's attention, and they rush to greet such a mighty player. Some even compare him to Skeleton Jinny, currently the strongest fighter among them all. She defeated a 4-star monster in her very first battle and managed to get the highest ranking light, that is, gold, during her trial of the swirling prophetic jade. All fighters undergo this trial to see if they are worthy of going into the rift, which further determines their true strength in battle. The levels of light increase from white, green, blue, purple, and gold. Lin hears about this trial and is excited to take it, but his guide Jerome tries to drag him away. The other fighters mock him for being afraid to try. This only strengthens his resolve to prove them wrong. He breaks away from his guide and flies straight toward the giant jade stone. The suspense lingers and people watch with their jaws open to see if he will make it. Like a mosquito that flies into a glass window, he gets smashed against the wall and slides down, leaving everyone disappointed. Instead of giving up, he picks up his sword and aims it directly at the stone. The magic in the Excalibur is shot out and creates cracks in the stone. Through the crowd, Director Zane comes running to him and expresses his amazement at his achievement. Up until now, no one had managed to do such a thing. He was certainly destined to be a great warrior and defeat all monsters. The director assigns him to the most difficult ongoing mission, which is to solve the paranormal incidents taking place at Moonshine University. For weeks, several artifacts in the storeroom kept moving by themselves. After the explosion, a trash can nearby also seemed to get possessed, and an ancient sword disappeared. It was up to him now to solve this mystery. Jerome completely opposes this mission and begs him to go into the rift and kill demons instead of wasting his time inspecting a trash can, but he refuses to listen. He believes the missing sword is the root of all the problems that have followed, and in order to restore the stability to the barriers, he must find it. In a house not so far away, the sword thief was sitting in his room attempting to join the broken pieces together. When the sword is fixed, it creates bright green swirling winds and brings the rift into its surroundings. Lin's appearance changes and he grabs his sword as strong winds continue blowing in his direction. From behind a bush, a crab monster jumps out. He gets hit by the green winds and grows into a giant. With his enormous claws, he tries to smash Lin into the ground, but the Excalibur slices his arm off and he tries to run away. He pursues the giant crab and lands several strikes on his back, which agitates the monster, causing him to turn around and hit back. The sword cracks into two and he gets captured by it. Just as he is about to get crushed, another fighter, the famous skeleton Jinny, appears and transforms into her rift form. She uses her special skills, the flaming hands, to reach out and defeat the monster. They head back home and Jerome throws another tantrum when he is out of earshot. He is irritated that Lin keeps getting lucky even after being so close to death so many times. While he has been pretending to be his guide, his true purpose was to sacrifice a formation spirit so that the seal to the demon world could be repaired. Lin happens to be the only formation spirit he can find, but his unpredictable acts keep preventing his plans from working out. He even attempted to weaken the sword, which caused the crack, but was once again unsuccessful. Lin returns to the room. He has injuries all over his body and is traumatized from the recent fights. He no longer wants to be part of the Chosen Ones and decides to no longer fight for the world. Jerome tries to change his mind and reminds him of his duties towards the gods. He continues crying until suddenly a gust of green light appears and his broken sword is magically restored. Seeing his sword back to normal again, he regains his confidence, believing that all this was just a test and he is in fact the destined hero. He promises to fight till the end and save the world. Even though his unstable nature is a bit concerning, Jerome is relieved that he has agreed to go back into the rift and fight demons. He is still confused about the green light that saved the sword, but also turned the crab monster into a giant. The Chosen One's community is overwhelmed with chatter about the previous night's events. Skeleton Jenny, who never teams up with anyone, had defeated the crab with the help of Lin, the Knight's Sword. Hang couldn't be less bothered about these talks. His focus was on investigating the explosion and finding out more about Lin. He has been creating a group of the strongest fighters to be his allies and fight on his side when the time comes. In order to examine the newest fighter, he buys an apartment in his building and moves in there. Lin and Jerome are standing near the window when they see a black car pull up in the driveway. Just as Hang gets out, the mud from the pot falls directly on his face. His assistant takes him to his new flat and cleans up his face. They hear the bell ring. Lin is standing outside with a gift to welcome him to the building. As the door opens, he steps into a disinfectant room full of smoke before entering the hall room. He greets them with a smile and hands over the smelly gift, which the assistant reluctantly takes from him. He is amazed by the house and goes around the room looking at all the different artifacts on the shelves. One such showpiece is a lever that pulls up a whole collection of special stones. These are used for forging and strengthening weapons for combat. Hang takes out a spherical blue stone and gives it to him. After defeating a monster, a player receives such stones, but Lin had disappeared before he could collect his reward from the sheep-headed demon. Since it was a 3-star defeat, the stone was extremely valuable. Still, instead of keeping it for himself, he offers to share it with him as he, too, was involved in the fight. Hang has enough of his own stones and refuses it. This brings out his overly friendly nature as he drags his new neighbor back to the south continent of the ancient world. The people there are surprised to see Hang walking hand in hand with another player, since he is mostly known for his distant and cold approach to everyone. They head into the commercial house to sell off the stone. Lin offers it to the shopkeeper, while Hang straightens out his clothes and touches up his perfume. They bargain and settle on a price of 250 shells, which he naively agrees to. Hang steps in and calls out the shopkeeper for trying to cheat him. A stone of such a high-starred demon should be worth at least 1,000 shells. With the money they collect, they go to a restaurant nearby to have some noodles. The chef is a special beast with the head of a tiger. Hang loses his appetite when he sees him devour the bowl in such a sloppy manner. A customer nearby throws his bowl aside and starts insulting the chef. Before he can hit him, Lin steps in and scolds him for his behavior. He believes everyone must be treated equally, no matter where they come from. This impresses Hang as he is sure that not only is he a strong warrior, he also has the right qualities to become his ally. They return back to the normal world where another rift opens up in the middle of the city. This time, they are faced with a 4-star demon that is good at both hiding and attacking. It generates a huge tornado within the rift, which prevents them from being able to move easily or see clearly. Lin uses Jerome and throws him into the tornado to hit the demon. The plan works and the tornado dies down after their impact. Hang stops him from acting recklessly and comes up with a strategy to defeat the enemy. However, he is not properly trained as a swordsman and does not understand his instructions. The demon moves very quickly and dodges all of their attacks. Several strikes from the Excalibur also miss it, and it disappears into the ground. They are now in danger from all sides as it could appear anywhere and attack them. It suddenly erupts from behind him, and when he sends a water attack, it reflects on Lin's sword and hits him back. The demon is extremely smart, tricking them into attacking each other. After accidentally hitting him a second time, he plants his feet on the ground and dodges the demon before knocking him out with his sword. Hang acknowledges his strength and welcomes him to be part of his team, but he continues calling him weak and powerless. This triggers him, and he uses his most powerful skill to summon back the dragon heads and absolutely destroys the demon. Lin and Jerome are left completely speechless. He promises to help him out with his training so he can use his powers more efficiently and become an even better fighter. He begins his practice on a beach nearby and follows a book given to him by Hang. Jerome desperately tries to discourage him from leveling up since it would be much tougher to kill him and his plan would be ruined. He has to cut short his training when he receives a call from his editor asking him to submit more cartoon designs by noon the next day. Meanwhile, news of the two of them teaming up has spread and left everyone confused. His own assistant is unsure of this decision but still promises to support him. Lin spends the rest of the day creating new cartoon strips and uses his life as inspiration. To his surprise, the new material takes off very well with the readers and he gains tons of followers overnight. He then adds Skeleton Jenny to his comics, unaware that in real life she happens to be a famous actress named Quinn. As he is riding his bike the next day, he hears screaming from an alley. Quinn, the girl on the ground, is being attacked by a man. He jumps off his bike and in a single punch knocks him out. Proud of his heroic actions, he looks up to see cameras all around him and realizes he had just attacked an actor who was playing a role in the movie. Even after persistently apologizing, the director charges him with several damage fees. Quinn knows he won't be able to pay back the money and pays it off for him. Jerome is up to his own plans to sacrifice him and another rift opens up near the set. The ground turns into burning rocks, and the powerful demon strides in with a giant hammer. He traps him with spiked rocks and is about to slam him in the head when a purple light punches him in the chest. Skeleton Jenny appears from behind and attacks him, once again saving Lin's life. The demon is at a 5-star level with red emo hair and a body that looks like it doesn't leave the gym. He also has the ability to control the ground and form weapons with the rocks. He summons burning rocks from the ground and swings them at her. She rises and flies through them. Lin manages to crawl out of the trap and continue his useless boasting about his strength. Instead of letting her handle the fight, he interferes and jumps to attack the monster unsuccessfully. While he is busy showing off, the demon sneaks up behind him with a hammer in hand. If she did not strike him in time, Lin would have been a pancake on the ground by now. To make matters worse, his sword starts malfunctioning and he loses control of it and is dragged around. She is fighting the enemy and is about to thrash the demon when he collides with her and sabotages the attack. She falls to the ground but quickly gets back up and continues the battle, this time before he can do anything stupid. She restrains him with a special thread. She then summons the Order of Yama and creates a ring of barriers around him. With one move, she is able to trap him in the magical container and send him away. The rift vanishes as they stand on the roof, and he discovers that she is the actress he just met a while ago. She is still annoyed by his misbehavior during the battle and pushes him away. He goes back to Hang and asks for advice on how to get her attention. Unsurprisingly, he gives him the worst male advice possible. Lin spends the next few days stalking her, showing up at her shoots with flowers, following her around. Super creepy and definitely not charming behavior. When he sees her riding her bike, he follows her to an orphanage. She spends much of her free time with the kids there, playing with them and helping with their adoptions. Lin remembers his own memories with his dad, who he lost at a very young age. They sit together under a tree when a little girl comes running to inform them of a friend who got hurt. After rushing her to the nurse's room, she tries to fix the broken swing, but injures herself and leaves the premises. He continues to pursue her even after she asks him to leave. Tired of his behavior, she stops her bike and lets him crash into her. She calls her assistant and gets him admitted into the mental hospital, a punishment very well deserved. After being discharged from the hospital, he gets a number of reminders for overdue fines, bills, and other charges. Along with this, he also has his rent overdue, and his cartoon, which was the only good source of income, gets taken down for plagiarism. The struggles kept piling on, and if that wasn't enough, another rift opens up just then. The caterpillar guy gets swept up with the wind as loose rocks start flying around. Lin must make a tough decision of whether to stay and fight whatever demon shows up and save the spirit guide, or to run back to his home and save whatever he can before his landlord kicks out all his belongings from the apartment. As the winds get stronger, he makes up his mind to do the right thing and fight for those weaker than him. He enters the rift and transforms into his fighting form with the Excalibur in hand. The 5-star demon with the hammer is back, and he stops his hammer with the sword to save the tiger chef from being hit. Instead of running away, the tiger picks up his own weapon to try and help, but ends up running into Lin after he gets punched by the demon. The training under Hang must have paid off, as he seemed to be dodging the attacks much better and swinging his sword swiftly. He manages to break the demon's hammer, but is still stopped from swinging his sword. He calls out to the tiger for help, and although his punch is completely ineffective, it creates a long enough distraction for him to escape from the demon's hold and cut off his arm. Unfortunately, the demon is able to regenerate very quickly, and the damage done is nil. The fight continues as they both attack each other using various moves. When he finally manages to slice the monster in half with a new skill he learned, he rejoices. But his victory is short-lived, as the monster quickly forms back into a much bigger version of his original self. The Chosen Ones send a help alert on the app and request any fighters nearby to rush into the rift and help him. They, realizing they must stand a chance against him, they decide to run for their lives, but the monster doesn't give up and traps him in the rocks. Quinn the Skeleton Genie and Hang arrive inside the rift, but when he sees the tiger being hit by the demon, it triggers the warrior inside him. He breaks out of the trap using his sword and remembers everything he has given up to stay here and fight. Since merely hitting the monster with his blade has no effect, he summons a giant fury of fire from the sword and burns the demon to the ground. He single-handedly managed to defeat such a high-level enemy. The tiger chef emerges out of the rocks unharmed, and after the rift closes, he runs back to his home. He is relieved to find all his stuff in place, and the landlord informs him that his rent had been covered by someone else. His editor calls him as well and informs his that the plagiarism news was all a misunderstanding. It looks like his life had taken a turn for the better. If he continued to work hard, he would be able to pay all his fines and debt. The recent victory over the rock demon had placed a newcomer like him in the top 50 ranks. The Chosen One's community attributed his wins to nothing but luck, and he was eager to prove them wrong. He was unaware that his neighbor, Hang, was responsible for saving his house and getting rid of the plagiarism charges. While he sleeps peacefully at his desk, a boy Xuan enters his home through the window. It's Hang's younger brother and has been stalking him for several days, trying to sabotage his life, but has been unsuccessful so far. He carries a replica of his sword in his briefcase to replace the original one and use it for his experiments with the ancient spirits, even though his brother had forbidden it. Xuan escapes from there before he can wake up. Lin is pleasantly surprised when a package of vanilla buns arrived for him the next morning as a gift from the tiger chef for saving him. He travels back to the southern continent to enjoy some more snacks with him. He overhears several others mocking them and calling the chef the sissy uncle. After ignoring them for a long while, he gets irritated and threatens to fight them if they continue to bully them. And just like that, he had a bunch of girls crushing over him. Jerome remains annoyed as ever with his constant good fortune. After chatting with the tiger chef for a long while on the app, they decide to meet in the real world, in a park. He excitedly cycles to the meeting spot and looks for his friend. To his surprise, a chef turns out to be a beautiful girl with a shy personality called Maya. She has always had a hard time making friends, and he was the first person who treated her kindly. They sit on the park bench and talk about their experiences. She had recently lost her spirit guide, Blue, and had been looking for him all over. She had found him the same day the explosion took place at the university. As they continue talking, they feel a disturbance in the energy nearby. Xuan was using the Excalibur to try and harness its energy, but the experiment went wrong and released a dark spirit after a small explosion. He grabs his sword to fight the spirit, but realizes he doesn't have it. Thankfully, he spots it in a bin nearby and grabs it. The demon paralyzes him and then strikes him on the head, causing him to drop the sword. She runs to help him up, but he gets hit again and falls unconscious. With no other option left, she transforms into the tiger and whips out her axe. She charges at the demon and with a strong hit to the ground sends shockwaves that destroy it completely. She is surprised to see her spirit guide, Blue, hop out of the bushes looking dazed. The spirit had possessed him all this time but was now free. Hang lectures his brother over creating such a mess outside and then grounds him as punishment. Lin ends up in a hospital and starts having hallucinations about his father, where he is following him on a snowy mountain when he falls and hurts himself. His father looks back and comes to help him out, but before he can grab his hand, he disappears. The visions cause him to almost jump out the window, but Maya catches him. She drags him back to bed and has him tied up by the staff. The doctor, Yi, who also happens to be a chosen one, enters the room and diagnoses him with mild brain damage. She advises him to continue resting in the hospital until he gets better. Maya follows her outside the room and overhears another doctor reporting that he only has 1 month to live. With tears in her eyes, she decides to keep this a secret from him and help him have the happiest last month of his life. After a few days, when he gets discharged, she convinces all of his friends to put together a welcome home party for him. She had also texted Skeleton Genie several days ago, informing her of his diagnosis and his desire to spend time with her. She joins the party, and they have a fun time eating delicious snacks and drinking expensive wine that belongs to Hang. Lin is delighted that they've all showed up to celebrate him, and when Quinn tries to leave, he begs her to stay for a little while longer. She tells him she only came because she received news that he only had a short while to live and wanted to see her. He is shocked by this news and thinks she is joking, but after looking around the room, he realizes it is the truth, and that he did not have much more time on Earth. He leaves the party, return to his room, and deal with the horrible news he just received. After a session of intense sobbing, he sits down near the window and tells his spirit guide that he will use his last few weeks on the planet to save the world and be remembered as a hero. Instead of being sad, Jerome rejoices at the news that he will die soon. This means the sacrifice would soon be complete, and he could repair the barrier to the demon world. He is confused by this reaction and assumes that he is just drunk. Hearing him say that, Jerome goes on a whole rant and reveals all of his secret plans and agendas, and how he had spent the last several weeks sabotaging Lin at every step so that he could get himself killed in the fights. He even tells him that he isn't really a chosen one and was accidentally put there. His only purpose of befriending him was so that he could use his sacrifice to go back to his old position as protector of the primordial formation and restore the barrier of the demon world. He calls him a number of different insults and then cruelly laughs. Lin is broken by this betrayal and cannot believe it had all been a lie. For weeks he treated him like his own, fed him food, cleaned up his litter, and cared for his every need, but he had only been using him this whole time. As revenge, he spends the rest of the day torturing his spirit guide in every way possible. He cuts off his water supply, messes with his food, takes away his litter box, and keeps him up the whole night with loud noises that wake up the entire neighborhood. The annoyance continues to the next morning when Maya comes over. She sits him down and explains that they had spoken to the doctor and that he wasn't going to die soon. It had all been a misunderstanding. Even though he was injured and some tests showed that his powers were much stronger than the average person, He did not have any life-threatening conditions. The doctor suspects he could be possessed by something or have some external energies like those acting on his sword affect him. He rejoices at this news and thanks her for all her support. She requests him to keep her pet, Blue, in his home for a few days, while she focuses on her upcoming exams. After she leaves, he kicks Jerome out of his house along with his belongings. As he sits on the floor, crying over the loss of his friend, he jumps back in through the window and pushes him to the ground. Along with Blue, he jumps on his back until he agrees to hear him out. Lin gets up and gives him a chance to explain himself. In the ancient times, when the gods divided the worlds, they created a special device called the Lotus that sealed away the demon realm to prevent the demon god from entering other worlds. They then destroyed the Lotus so that no one would be able to break the seal, and Blue and Jerome were made divine beasts to protect this seal and take care of any imbalances in energies. However, 500 years ago, a mysterious organization known as the White Ghost managed to get a hold of all the destroyed pieces. The Lotus was reactivated, and when a member of the group destroyed the Lotus, the city sank to the ground. It was the same one that lay under the university where the explosion had taken place, and an archaeology professor believed that if they did not unearth the truth soon, the same events may reoccur and destroy the entire city. He orders for excavation to be continued. The Excalibur suddenly begins to move on its own and emits a green light. In an attempt to save the spirit guides from being hit, he gets knocked out himself and falls to the ground. When he wakes up again, he decides to continue participating as a chosen one, since he believes all the events up until now prove that it was his destiny to do so. He forgives Jerome for all his actions, and they decide to team up and help each other out instead of deceiving each other. Meanwhile, Hang receives news that the White Ghosts had arrived in the mortal world and the peaceful days were now over. They must be prepared for any battle to come. The weather channels all over the city report a terrible typhoon forming in the Southern Ocean. While it looks like a storm to the normal human eye, it was actually the work of a group of men who were summoning a mighty spell. The winds ravage the city, and when Blue opens the window, he almost gets blown away. Lin catches the two of them in steps on the TV remote. When the channel changes, he sees a famous author in an interview mentioning his comic books. Soon after, he receives a call from the agency asking him to join them as a client. He is so excited at the chance of having his books be adapted into films that he leaves the house during the storm and struggles through the winds to reach the agency. On his way there, he notices several people lying unconscious on the road. He finds Quinn in the alleyway and thinks she is behind the attacks. Before she can explain, she gets called to the orphanage, where several instabilities in the energy are seen. The sleeping people stand up in a mindless way and start walking towards him. He tries to wake them up, but nothing works. Suddenly, green vines shoot out from the ground and walls and restrict their movements. He looks up to see a masked person standing on a roof. He reports directly to the archaeologist, who was also in charge of the Chosen Ones. All over the city, people were falling into a coma state and acting without control. The winds showed no signs of slowing down, and they suspected that a demon, or maybe more, had made their way into the mortal world. Instabilities erupted almost everywhere, and the Chosen Ones were on high alert. Lin, however, first stopped at the agency to meet with the director and sign the contract for a film adaptation. The director tries to make some edits to the story and create a new narration, but he refuses them and decides to make the changes himself. After leaving the agency, he runs into Quinn again, and they both receive notifications to head to the Bay Area, where a rift is about to open. To save time, he hops onto her bike and they speed away. The winds seem milder here and everything looks normal, when all of a sudden a huge crowd of sleepwalking men come out from behind the rocks and attack them. Since they are in an enchanted area where the energies are all a mess, they appear to be much stronger and quickly overpower Lin. She not only has to fight off her own attackers, but also save him and carry him to safety like a baby. They turn around to find a giant monkey demon breathing down on them. Hang has also arrived there and attacks him with his dragon spear, sending him rolling back. The three of them team up and combine their powers to strike the high-ranking demon. They manage to dodge his attacks, but even with all their powers combined, he remains completely unharmed. They were in for a real challenge this time, and simple, reckless attacks would be useless. The demon manages to avoid their attacks and sends the ordinary citizens back into a hypnosis to attack them from all sides. They decide to call in for help from the masked person that are outside a network area, so Hang leaves them to go and get help while they keep the monster occupied. At the worst possible moment, his sword goes berserk again and he gets dragged around by it. She gathers all of her strength and uses her spell to trap him between magical barriers and destroy him with a fire, but he is able to break through it all and smash the spell with just one hand. Lin pushes her out of the way to save her from his attack and gets hit himself. His next strike is stopped by Hang, who returns back in no time. He was unable to exit the rift. No matter how many times he tried, they were stuck here alone and had to defeat the monster without any reinforcements. The fierce battle continues and they keep trying to combine their skills, yet he is able to withstand all of their attacks and strike them back with ease. They lie defeated on the sand, too exhausted to get back up. As usual, seeing his friends hurt drives him to stand up and fight again. His confidence overflows as he pulls up his sword and charges straight for the demon. Watching him pursue it inspires her to stand back up and fight. The Chosen Ones never give up. Together, they attack the giant monkey and cause him to take a step back. They realize the blue stone on his chest was his weakness, and they would have to destroy it in order to win. Along with Hang, she distracts the demon and restricts his movements so that Lin could strike and kill him. They try over and over again but are unable to make the fatal strike. Their energies are almost completely drained, and like an angel, Dr. Yi arrived in her transformed self. She was a healer and cast a spell that helped them to regenerate their power and heal their injuries. They have the strength for one final attack, and with everything they got, they charge at the demon. Lin manages to hit him in the chest with the sword and kills him. The core stone forms and they rest on the ground after the long and tiring battle. He is in much worse shape than any of the others and is rushed to the hospital. He starts seeing his dad again, but wakes up suddenly when Jerome shocks him. They speak to Maya over a video call. She has discovered several things on her archaeological trip and promises to tell them all the details after returning. Back at the headquarters of the Chosen Ones, the leaders begin to suspect Lin of being a mole. His father used to be a spy for the White Ghost, and they believe he has followed the same path. The leaders and guards set out to find Lin and bring him back to the court. They question his intent as a fighter and whether he has any updates on his father's whereabouts. He is completely unaware that he is being suspected for treason and for being a spy for the enemy. They put him in a magical cage and continue the interrogations. He is given electric shocks every time he avoids a question. 20 years ago, a team of Chosen Ones were flying through the snowy mountains to investigate a disturbance. The plane was hit by a strike from the mountains, it crashed, and everyone on board was killed. The fragment of the lotus that was being transported went missing, and the only clue that remained was a keychain in the hands of one of the fighters. It had Lin's father's codename inscribed on it, which led them to suspect him as the attacker, thief, and traitor of the Chosen Ones. The two spirit guides and skeleton Jinny have made their way to the outside of the court to try and rescue their friend. They distract the guards as she sneaks up behind them and knocks them out in order to enter the court without setting off any alarms. They see Lin being tortured by the leader, and without warning, she attacks him. He quickly reacts to her attacks and pulls out his weapon. His focus leaves the magical cage and Lin is left free. She ties him up with her own spell. He is able to escape quickly, and they barely reach the door. One of the masked guards steps in front of them and stops his attacks. He hits the whip again, this time breaking the mask to reveal Dr. Yi. She was part of the leaders and was forced to join their team to keep an eye on them. The skeleton Jinny drops him off to safety before going back in and fighting with Yi. The people outside are no less cruel. They throw eggs and other food scraps at him and blame him for all the unrest that has been taking place throughout the kingdom. He sits dejected in his room and refuses to talk to anyone. The results of his trials would be announced in 3 days' time. Hank spends his time thinking over everything he has experienced with Lin. He comes to the conclusion that he would protect his friend from any allegations put up by the leaders. It is too late, though, as he has already left the apartment and disappeared. They search for him all over town and find him in the park, wrestling over a box with a cloaked person. He falls into the river and Jerome jumps in after him. Together with Hang, they retrieve the box where the image of the snowy mountains is projected. He leaves to go find the truth. The archaeologist, along with their Yi and Hang, discuss the events that took place at the park. They tell him that Lin had risked his life to save a fellow Chosen One, and that he could not be a spy even if he wanted to due to his silly and foolish nature. He forbids Hang from going to visit him, but that does not stop him. Dr. Yi also convinces him to reconsider his decision to exile the boy, since they were still under the huge threat of another demon and they would require his combat powers to stand any chance against the monster. She promises to take responsibility of him in case he does anything against the Chosen Ones. Lin has reached the snowy mountains along with the spirit guides. He struggles to walk through the snow and finds himself on the edge of a cliff, which suddenly breaks off. His fall is slowed down by Hang's dragons and Quinn catches him at the bottom of the cliff. He wakes up to see his entire team surrounding him. They had all come to help him out with his mission to find the truth about the thief. He becomes emotional and thanks them for not giving up on him. Maya mentions that during her archaeological research, they had found mysterious remains of human bones with the demon stone in the middle. They were unable to figure out who it belonged to, but their conversation is cut short when the slow slides off and reveals that they have been standing on the site where the plane had crashed. The cloaked man appears again and demands that Lin return the missing seal piece. Several other members of the White Ghost arrive and surround them. They plan to break the seal to the demon world and join hands with the demons to create a new order. one that would make them the most powerful beings in all the worlds. They believe the Chosen Ones are evolved humans and should be using their powers for their own upliftment instead of being public servants. They end the chit-chat and transform into their rift forms to fight the enemy. The cloaked man turns out to be the director at the agency, who had been representing Quinn all these years. She slams him into a rock and restrains him. He summons the bird-headed demon general, which starts attacking them without even being seen. Skeleton Ginny casts another eye spell and removes the invisibility cloak from it. They surround it with every kind of barrier and try to trap it, but the demon is far too powerful and breaks through all their attacks. Yi heals their wounds, but the bird demon bolts past each of them and kicks them to the ground. It finally attacks Lin and strikes him to the ground. They all lie beaten up on the ground, and when Quinn walks towards it, he picks her up and tosses her aside. The white ghost only care about Lin. They cast a spell on him to break through his magical barriers and retrieve the seal that was placed inside him 20 years ago by members of the Chosen Ones. All his energy is drained from him until the barrier is broken and the seal falls into their hands. They expect him to be dead by now, but by breaking the barrier that had been restricting most of his powers, he has now woken up stronger than ever with a red light circling around him. He uses Jerome to hit one of the guards to help his friends escape them and fight back. The bird demon gets infuriated and charges straight at him. The battle goes on as they move swiftly to attack each other and defend themselves. He finds himself on his knees with most of his strength drained, but just as the demon is about to destroy him, his friends combine their power and transfer it around him. They amplify his own powers and help him to strike back. He runs through the energy bolts, and as soon as the demon is tied up by Hang and Quinn, he releases the fire in his sword to exterminate it and collect the seal. The group returns back to the South Continent as heroes after having saved the realms from total destruction. Lin's name has been cleared and he is free to join back as the Chosen One. Yet many mysteries remain unsolved. The group finds the same weird skeleton at the university excavation site. It has the demon stone placed right in the center of it, and when Quinn reaches out to touch one of the bones, a red vortex opens up and she gets sucked into it. The evil realm of the demons continues to try and break its way out of the rift and into the real world.